Hi, welcome to Sintera and welcome along to our first live webinar. You can see it's live. With me, Garrett Chamberlain. I'm the operations manager from Sintera. I've spent 15 years in construction and have a wide range of knowledge, started as a humble traffic marshal to becoming the dreaded health and safety advisor. People frequently ask Sintera ask us all about the journey, and they're always really interested to know about the story behind Sintera and just to find out a little more. So we thought it would be a fantastic idea to host a webinar to tell our story and to give some insight into what Sintera is and how we are transforming site communication through tech. So I'm delighted to be joined by one of the brains behind the operation, and it is a pleasure for me to say welcome along to one of our co-founders, Sarah Cooley. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Hi.
Morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed. Do you want to just give yourself a little bit of an intro and just tell us who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Sarah. I'm a former senior project manager from Mace. I specialised in mechanical and electrical healthcare refurbishment. So I've been working on site since a young age. My dad was a contractor, so I was free labour, and then have worked kind of my way up kind of through it. And yeah, just like was working at Mace for a number of years, worked in construction probably about 10 years, doing different roles, predominantly kind of on NEC projects. And yeah, I then finished up on my last project and left an absolutely great job with Mace to build Sintera basically. And then we are sat here now.
Fantastic. So what gave you the inspiration to create Sintera? What was the story behind that?
The root of it was that on kind of all of my projects, there was a real communication gap, especially around like with what people like coming like from site. There was very little communication around what was actually happening. So there was a real lack of visibility of like what was actually happening at site, and that most software was top down. So it was built for people in the office. It just didn't benefit. And then the amount of times I was being like rung or emailed, being like, what's happening with this? And, you know, there were so many different businesses delivering on one project, even on smaller ones. And it was just chaotic. And I thought there's a massive opportunity here to build something that's from site, it's bottom up, that serves them, and that can close that feedback loop. You know, so then the people in the office have that kind of a much better real-time information, kind of what's going on. So yeah, basically I was sick of all construction tech serving people in the office.
Perfect. But so once you had that sort of spark of an idea, what happened next?
Well, I've been coding from probably the age of like 12, 14, and kind of on and off. And so I kind of taught myself to code from a mobile perspective. I then built like what in tech we call the MVP, which means the minimum viable product. So I built like kind of it's like a base kind of product. And I worked with the teams, like the site team that I had at the time, to really try and test out that prototype, and we trialed it and it worked. And then it started to kind of gain traction, which was really great. And we just kept iterating, and I kept like each week I'd meet with different site teams to be like, are we using it? Like what's working, what's not? And just really try to like refine the product off of that. So we stayed away from all the people in the office. It was just like, how do we solve this problem, and how do we get people to like communicate very quickly off of a mobile phone? So I then got investment from some angel investors and some venture capitalists. That's a whole other story. It was an interesting experience that could best be described as an intense period of enlightenment. It's like nice. A very, very different beast to construction people. Recruited like a kick-ass team. Obviously, I poached you from a prior project, and then is now kind of working. It's live. Obviously, the team's like 17 people. It's been used by over 100 companies now. So it's incredible. And it's like, and what I love is that we're still working with different site teams to get that input and feedback and help us grow.
Definitely. That's a lovely thing you touched on there, the building off of people's feedback into the projects as a whole. And I think that's where I thought a lot of our past struggles have been in construction with that, the difficult situations you're in and around site reporting and site communication. It's such a fuddle, isn't it? It's sort of all over the place. How would you describe construction's, what it's like in construction in terms of site reporting and communications? What does it really look like for people on the ground at the moment?
I think it's very top down. And what I mean by top down is it's very heavily driven around. Sometimes I used to joke that like a lot of our reporting was to keep other people in jobs. We never saw it was like a large like tick box exercise. And I think there's a lot of that in the industry. I think, we talk about all this exciting tech, but I think in very much in kind of like my reality and a lot of the site teams that we work with, they're still using paper. It's heavily paper based. Microsoft Excel is still, I would say, the most popular software in construction. And and a lot are using like WhatsApp to communicate because it's faster than anything else and around. So you have a WhatsApp group and you're posting your photos and kind of updates in that. So I would say that's very much still the reality, I would say, for most site teams. Would that be your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say I'll chime in on that. I'd say also Word is a great tool for a lot of companies still. I mean, you touched there on WhatsApp. We've got Teams and after Teams just all firing pictures in, and it's an absolute mess. And paper, unfortunately, is still king. We've somebody's created their really bespoke Word document that they're really proud of, and they print off reams of it. And I myself in the past have been, going out and chasing lads around site to get them to sign X, Y, and Z, and it goes back. It's a complete mess, though, isn't it? Absolute mess, and it's still driven by phone. It's still phone is it's still the king, really, isn't it? I always remember, especially being on site, is that I knew that there was, if somebody rang me once, yeah, it's okay. But if I had like 2 to 3 missed calls off them, that's it. I need to call them back as quickly as possible because there's a massive issue that we've got to sort out.
I agree, definitely, and I mean your health and safety, but I mean on some of, or maybe I should not declare this in a webinar, but on certain like RAMs we just do like Control R, Control F, and then to find it, and then do like then replace it, and then insert new name, tweak it a bit, and then resubmit that. Never ever did that ever.
No. No, and I think that's a lot of it, isn't it? Just rechurning the same old stuff, and the problem is that a lot of people they're not really engaging with it. They're sort of missing the point effectively. You know what I mean? And so what with just on that similar ilk then, if there's anybody in the webinar, or if you're watching this retrospectively, if you've got any experience in regards to any pains that you've had with site communications, or if you've got any interesting stories that you want to put into us, then we'd really love to hear what you have to say, wouldn't we, Sarah?
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. So just moving on. So why do you think that just we're talking about digital adoption, and it's quite difficult to get people off of these WhatsApp and Excel? Why do you think that digital adoption has been really quite slow in the construction industry? Why is it so really hard for them to move away from something that they've used for so long?
I think there's a legacy problem of software companies like over promising and under delivering. I think I see a lot of this all the time, like, oh yes, it can do all of these things, and then a lot of the time it kind of can't. They're often monolithic, very large, heavy, bloated kind of systems, and not particularly agile, and like some of them still look like, I've definitely, for working for like even large contractors, a lot of the software that we use looked like it was built in the 80s. And it was almost archaic. I also think on this, like a secondary point onto that, is most tech in the industry is, again, as I've mentioned before, it's top down. It's really heavy, like it's really, and it's driven it, and it doesn't reflect how work is actually delivered on site. With like, you can have many people from many different businesses. It is chaotic. There's a lot kind of happening, and we're missing out so much in real time. And I just think, my experience then of that communication is what would happen is, at the end of the week, we would then try and give like a summary, and it'd be like, okay, I remember what we did today and yesterday. What were we doing on Monday again? And it wasn't in real time, and that was on a good week. Often it was not unknown to like wait 4 weeks to then kind of get a report. And I also think, well, we know this even just from watching it with our teams, and I didn't know this at the time, but what has surprised me, going tech side, and then also from speaking to all of our site teams, is how worried they are about being tracked. Like, there's this idea around tracking people seems to be getting more and more popular. And I was with an investor a while ago, and they were talking about, we saw this amazing platform. It can do all this tracking and all this facial recognition, and it's like all these different CCTV cameras that can help with all these different things around a construction site. And I was like, oh, okay. How would you feel about that being in your office? And they were like, oh, 100%. No.
Yeah.
And I think I would hate that. I would hate to be like on the aspects. And I think there is a real fear from teams on the ground about being tracked that I totally understand and kind of get. Like, I really, really disagree with this idea of like all of this tracking software that we're beginning to see, and the experience of so many of the site teams, like, is this tracking me? And then we do a lot of work explaining to them like no, we're about tracking projects, never people. And I think those three things have really hindered kind of tech adoption, and cause and there's a lot of skepticism around tech coming in and stating or saying different things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my experience in the past is that in my experience within health and safety, and there's been many strives, many changes, many really, really good changes to health and safety legislation over the past few years. But tech, in my personal experience, they come in, they give you a big dodgy old tablet, and they say, like you said, it can do X, Y, and Z. They charge you a huge upfront fee, and then it just all goes wrong. But going to your interesting point about the tracking, people on site have had trackers in their vans for a long, long time now. And like you rightly said, you wouldn't put a tracker on somebody working in the office, right? What time is it? Clocking in, and there was a huge focus on that. And it's almost as if, these systems aren't necessarily there to make your life easier. They're there just to keep an eye on you and what's going on. And that is exactly, the distrust that we see. And you rightly said, people are, there is a bit of pushback, and we've had conversations with people that they think, you're tracking me through the phone, and why would you want to look inside somebody's pocket when they're working on site? Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely ridiculous. So with that, just are we ready for these digital solutions, and what really would be? How do we change that narrative, Sarah? We've got that distrust, and we're just changing the narrative. How do we do that?
I don't think it happens overnight. I believe that construction and utilities and rail are all ready to adopt new tech. Everybody has a smartphone. Most people have a smartphone these days. They know how to use it. I think they are tech savvy, but I think they're ready for solutions that work for them. I think we will scale out these solutions, these legacy systems that are in place that just don't work for them. But I think the point I'm trying to make is they will adopt, but it has to work for them. And whoever can, traditionally getting information out of sight can be like getting blood out of a stone. I think if you can take that and work with these teams to build a product that's for them and iterate and not overpromise and be like, you are still working, you will take on feedback. Is it working for them? And then linking it back to these other systems, like if it's SharePoint, if it's Procore, whatever it is, whatever information management system that they're using. But I think it's to solve it down here, because what's always interested me is it's at the point of work where all the magic happens. It's like they're the people they're the subject matter experts. They're the ones doing the work. And, you know, I think tapping into that knowledge is vital. And I also think they do want to share it. They want to showcase what they've done. That, you know, they also want to cover their asses, don't get me wrong, but they also showcase good work. And I think whoever can make that as easy as possible for them in a way that reflects how work is delivered with lots of many subcontractors, I think we'll have a really great solution.
Yeah, definitely. I just to echo your point there, I think that it's you can have something that's a piece of a new way of working, shall we say, that is all very much bells and whistles. But if it doesn't make practical sense on the ground, and if it's not something that the workforce will see as a benefit to them or making their life easier, you're always going to have that pushback. I know myself that years ago we had these old Havy system. Remember the Havy wrist system? I don't know, remember that? So lads on bits and pieces like that, they could just take that off, and they just no bits, you know, it was just a faff, you know, and they didn't see it as a beneficial thing when actually it really was, you know, and there was that pushback around that because they just saw it as a nonsense to them, really. But like you say, if we can make it really, really easy, and it's that usability, isn't it? It's that it has to be easy, it has to be, you know, universally used. And I think, like you're saying, the future of it really, especially in and around tech, is that, you know, as we're seeing younger and younger people come through into the industry, they are more you know, they're more tech savvy, aren't they, really? So they're going to take to it like a duck to water, to know necessarily that somebody who has had a bit more experience than me might be a bit more resistant around it. So that's where I think the tides will be changing.
Yeah, and I think as well, like I see a lot of stuff around like people promising that AI is going to solve all these conflicts on site. But my experience on site is that if you can look at a 2D drawing and you can look at what you're looking at, say like in the ceiling, like that, you can like look at a drawing of like, oh, the air handling unit 8's there on the drawing, and you're looking up and it's like, it's not there in reality, and this is not kind of like bidded off. They don't need AI to tell them that. They're trained. And I think what I'm really interested in terms of the future of where site communication is going is how can you train like almost like an adaptive learning algorithm from the people with the most knowledge on the ground, and getting that information and then driving results forward rather than promising like top down, like AI and stuff like that. Actually, can you do it from the bottom and take this knowledge and help them, and them support training an algorithm that helps like spot things? Because you know, I love seeing some tech being like, oh, it can do this clash detection, and you're like, it's like a solution looking for a problem, because you know the subbies on the ground will be like, mate, that's you know, this is going to be an issue. A compensation event is coming.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a very good point. Imagine if, I mean, we've been to a few sort of expos recently, and we've seen some fantastic stuff, some really clever stuff, but not necessarily practical. I was talking to the chap that had one of those 3D sort of looking at glasses and bits and pieces, and you think if you rock up to a normal site and hey, lads, I've got my special glasses on, it's not going to land, is it? You know, it's not going to be that practical element, that because people are just, they are, as you said, still using the paper. They're still using basic bits and pieces. And if we jump from, you know, not even learning to crawl first, and then we're into you know, running a marathon, there's that massive divide. And I think my observation of people in tech or other tech firms that I've observed before coming to Simterra is that they're trying to run before they can walk, you know, and it's that and I think the disjointed comes from that, because if you go up to any sort of normal run-of-the-mill person on site and you show them fantastic glasses, they're just, what's the point? You can't, you know, what's the absolute point of it all, you know? But yeah, is there so just taking it back to transforming site communication, our topic of our webinar today. So with So can we go back to the story of Simterra then? So with Simterra, what things can we expect in the future, and what sort of elements have we, what could you speak to the audience a bit more about who we are and what we're doing to solve this problem?
Well, I think we're a communication pipeline from site for the whole supply chain to communicate on. We definitely have some exciting new features coming up, in particular around activities that kind of like link back to kind of close, like kind of full visibility. We also have some great integrations with different systems kind of coming forward. But I think in terms of transforming site communication at its base level, it's just getting the teams on the ground using something, could be anything, to capture their knowledge and their works record. That's the starting block. And then once you've got that starting block covered, you can then push out onto much more interesting things. It's like, okay, well, who last touched, you can then see like who last touched that asset, or see all the different updates against that activity, and therefore better forecast if you're on time or not. But in terms of like then driving forward around like planned preventative maintenance work, you can then start to kind of do forecast stuff on that. And then I think you can begin to, go into the buzzwords of like machine learning and AI. That's only going to work with starting with something, because you've mentioned you can't, you need to walk before you can kind of run. So I think there is huge potential going forward with insight communication. And I think there is some really jazzy, snazzy stuff, but it has to start with getting the teams on the ground and getting, projects and teams to communicate how work is actually delivered, and then using that as a base to build on for the really cool shit.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I mean, there's loads we didn't in terms of through technology that we didn't discuss today. Obviously, there's the big elephant in the room. There's the Building Safety Act, which I know John, our other co-founder, has been doing some fantastic webinars on. Possibly, maybe that's something that we could take up again in another webinar event, because we were quickly running out of time here. But just to reiterate to anybody who is watching us live, or is watching us maybe on a recording that we'll send out to everybody, if you've got any questions or any comments around this subject, then please just drop it into the comments below. And if you are interested in hearing more from Simterra, please get in touch. You can either reach out to myself, any one of the teams. We're on LinkedIn and all the other socials. And I think, Sarah, just to sort of begin to wrap up here, just wanted to say thanks. Thanks for this in our first event. I don't know about you, it was slightly nerve-wracking for myself. We will make this a lot more slicker, and I'll stop erring so much. So yeah, sorry about that, but you're definitely giving us loads to think about, lots of insight to share, and I think we've really covered quite a lot there. And if any, just to go back, if anybody does want a demo, please let us know. Drop your name in the chat, reach out, and we'll be doing another one of these really soon, won't we, with Sarah?
Yeah, I think we're debating, and people can definitely input into this, but I think the next one we're doing is like how you can use your data to build dashboards that serve kind of you within, if it's on Microsoft, the name's just Power BI, if you want to kind of up on how to kind of do that, so kind of tailor to using the data in a format of how you want. But yeah, you've obviously Garrett, you can email out at garrett@simterra.com. I'm Sarah, you can find us on LinkedIn. But I think thank you so much for your time, everybody. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just to echo there what Sarah has said, if you've got any subjects that you'd like us to cover, or any sort of feedback, we love a bit of feedback here, don't we, Sarah? Good, or mainly we know, good or bad, anything.
We have a really good phrase for this. They used to say, and they just drill it into us all the time, like feedback is a gift, and it's like burned into you, like every day and it's like in real time. So and this is something that there's nothing like site teams as well, giving you like the blunt, honest truth. Like I love that it's unfiltered. It's like, that doesn't bloody work. They say they use it to substitute the word bloody for something more. But I like that, and I think that's so crucial around, like, so if you have any ideas or you have opinions questions, or you have something that you think can be improved. Ideally, it's constructive criticism or kind of feedback. We are open to all kinds.
Perfect. And on that note, I think we'll wrap up there. So thank you very much again, everybody, and yeah, take care, and we will see you on the next session.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye for now.